Every great achievement begins with a single thought, that quiet whisper in your mind, that spark of curiosity or bold belief. It's where it all begins, not with a budget, not with a business partner, not even with a plan. It starts with you deciding to see something differently, to believe that something more is possible, that you were not placed here to live life on autopilot, checking boxes, surviving Mondays and craving weekends. You were placed here to create, to build, to lead, and all of that begins in your mind. You don't need permission to think big, but you do need the courage to listen to your own voice, especially when it gets loud in the world. That thought, the one you keep brushing aside because you're not ready and not qualified and not there yet, it's the seed, and if you water it with belief, if you feed it with focus and protect it from distractions and doubt, it will grow into something powerful. But that growth doesn't happen by accident, it happens by decision. Most people underestimate their thoughts. They don't realize that thoughts are not just passing clouds, they are blueprints. They shape how you show up, what you say yes to, what you walk away from, and who you become in the process. That's why your thinking is not a soft skill. It's not optional, it's everything. It's where strategy starts. Where vision begins, you want to build something meaningful, then start thinking intentionally. Choose what you feed your mind, be selective with your attention, be relentless with your focus. Success is not an accident. It's a consequence of alignment, when your thoughts, words, and actions line up, and that alignment is not something you stumble into. It's something you choose every day. You decide, who do I want to be? What do I need to think in order to become that person? What do I need to believe even when no one else believes it yet? That's how leaders are born, not from perfect conditions, not from privilege, not from ease. They're born the moment they decide their thoughts matter enough to build on. Every single person you admire, every founder, every creator, every innovator, every change maker, they all started with a thought. A moment where something clicked, a moment where they said, "Why not me?" They weren't handed certainty. They created clarity through action, and it all started with that first thought. There has to be more. I can do better. I can build something different. That's not arrogance. That's responsibility. That's ownership. That's stepping up and deciding to go first, to be seen, to fail forward, and to keep going. You are not here to play small. You are not here to spend your life second, guessing your instincts. You are here to lead, to contribute, to raise the bar, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's watching you, everyone who's learning from your example, whether you realize it or not. Because you're always leading something, your life, your family, your team, your future. And that leadership, it starts inside. It starts with the thought you choose to believe in and act on. And yes, it's risky. Thoughts challenge the status quo. They push against what's easy and familiar. But that's where the growth is. That's where the breakthroughs lie. You don't get to rise without resistance. You don't get to lead without letting go of comfort. So if you've had a thought, an idea, a vision, a calling, that won't leave you alone, that keeps showing up in quiet moments, that stirs something in your spirit, don't ignore it. That's your signal. That's your starting point. That's the raw material for everything you're meant to build. Your job is not to have all the answers. Your job is to honor the thought, to give it space, to trust that it showed up for a reason, and that you are the one who is meant to carry it. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be committed. You just need to keep showing up for that thought, keep refining it, keep aligning your actions with it until it turns into something real. That's how movements start. That's how businesses scale. That's how legacies are built. One thought at a time, followed by relentless action. So today, I'm not asking you to change everything. I'm asking you to listen. To slow down long enough to hear the thought that's been waiting for you to pay attention. To realize that your best ideas are not random. They are invitations. They are blueprints. They are the first brick in the foundation of something extraordinary. Every great achievement you admire, it was once just a thought. The difference is, someone believed in it enough to build it. Now it's your turn. Your thoughts are not just passing ideas or random noise in your mind. They are the framework of who you are. Every identity is born in the mind long before it ever becomes visible to the world. Before you ever speak, before you take action, before you build anything of value, you've already made thousands of silent decisions in your head. And those decisions, they shape your reality. They shape how you show up, how you carry yourself, what you believe you're capable of, and whether or not you give yourself permission to lead. People want to change their lives, grow their businesses, become more confident, more focused, more influential. But they overlook where that change actually begins. It doesn't start with more information. It doesn't start with a morning routine or another book. It starts with the thoughts you allow to define you. It starts with what you say to yourself when no one's listening. Because every time you think, I'm not ready, I'm not qualified, someone else is already doing it better. You are reinforcing an identity that keeps you playing small. You are building an internal narrative that tells you it's safer to shrink than to show up. You will never outperform your identity. You will never outwork a belief that says, I'm not enough. You can hustle all day, check off every to-do list, burn through your calendar, but if your thoughts are rooted in fear, insecurity, or doubt, it will all feel heavy. It will never feel aligned. And here's what's even more powerful. You get to choose your thoughts. You get to rewrite the story. You get to decide how you interpret failure, how you process rejection, how you bounce back from setbacks. That's what leaders do. They don't just lead teams or companies, they lead themselves. And that self-leadership begins with mastering your thoughts. Your identity is not what you post online. It's not your title or your follower count. It's what you truly believe about yourself when things go quiet. When the pressure is high, when the results aren't coming yet, that's when your real mindset speaks. That's when your identity gets revealed. And if your identity is built on scarcity, on comparison, on waiting to be chosen, you will always feel stuck. But if your identity is built on ownership, responsibility, and clarity, then nothing is out of reach, because your identity won't depend on external validation. It will come from a deep internal knowing of who you are and what you're here to do. Your thoughts either limit you or launch you. They either talk you out of your potential or call you up to your next level. And the truth is, we are all living in the consequences of the thoughts we've repeated for years. If you've spent the last decade telling yourself you're bad with money, or you're not a natural leader, or you're just not that kind of person, then guess what? Your life has adjusted to make that belief true. But the moment you change the way you think about yourself, the moment you say, this isn't who I want to be and I don't have to stay here, you reclaim your power. It's not about positive affirmations or pretending everything's fine. It's about becoming radically honest about the thoughts that have been driving your decisions. Are they helping you grow? Are they pushing you forward? Or are they keeping you comfortable, small, quiet? If you want to transform your identity, don't start by changing your habits. Start by changing your thoughts, because habits follow beliefs, actions follow identity. When you start thinking like a leader, you'll act like one. When you start believing you are worthy of impact, you'll move with a different energy. People will feel it because it's real. This is not about faking confidence. This is about choosing thoughts that serve your vision. Thoughts that are aligned with where you're going, not where you've been, because your past doesn't get to define your identity unless you let it. You are not your mistakes. You are not your delays. You are not your circumstances. You are the thinker. You are the creator. You get to choose what story to live by. And if you're thinking, but I've never done this before, good, that means you're growing. That means you're stepping into new territory. That means your current identity is being challenged, and that's exactly what needs to happen. Growth never feels comfortable. It's not supposed to. You're rewriting patterns, breaking cycles, building new beliefs that will shape how you lead, how you speak, how you decide, and how you rise. So yes, Your thoughts define your identity, and your identity defines everything else. The question is, what kind of leader are you becoming, and are your thoughts aligned with that version of you? Because once they are, nothing can stop you. A thought on its own is potential. It holds energy, vision, and purpose, but it's not power until you move, until you decide to take intentional, focused action toward that thought. It stays an idea. No matter how inspired, how big, how game changing it might be, a thought without movement is just imagination. Power comes from doing. Power is what happens when belief and behavior align. That's when momentum builds. That's when vision starts turning into results. That's when leaders separate themselves from dreamers. Intentional action means you're not just reacting to life, you're designing it. You're choosing where your energy goes, how your time is spent, and what gets your focus. You're no longer waiting for permission. You're not sitting around for the right mood or the perfect circumstances. You know that clarity is created in motion, not in theory. You know that perfectionism is procrastination with a mask on. So you start, you move, you test, you refine. That's where real progress lives. Not in perfect plans, but in consistent execution. But let's be clear, not all action is created equal. Busy doesn't equal effective. Constant motion isn't the same as intentional movement. Intentional action is strategic. It's rooted in awareness. It's aligned with a bigger purpose. When you act with intention, you're not just trying to stay ahead. You're building something that lasts. You're making moves that align with your values, your vision, and your future. That alignment is where power lives. When your thoughts are clear and your actions are precise, your impact multiplies. People underestimate how much power they actually have simply because they never act on their best ideas. They let doubt interrupt their momentum. They tell themselves they're not ready yet. They think they need more credentials, more time, more experience. But what they really need is commitment. They need to decide that the idea was given to them for a reason. And that reason isn't to sit on it, it's to do something with it. You gain confidence through action. You build belief by showing yourself what's possible. The more you move, the more you learn. The more you learn, the better you get. And the better you get, the more power you build, not from a place of ego, but from alignment. Intentional action requires you to be honest about what matters. What do you actually want? What are you willing to show up for, even when it's inconvenient? What are you committed to building, even when no one is clapping for you yet? This is what separates leaders from spectators. Spectators consume, leaders create. Spectators watch other people live intentionally while they scroll and compare. Leaders get clear, take action, and build. They don't wait for approval. They don't outsource responsibility. They step into it. They own their path and act with purpose. If you have a vision for your life, your business, your leadership, it won't come to life just because you want it. It will only happen when you act like it already exists, when you show up like the version of you who already has the results. That doesn't mean faking anything. It means behaving in alignment with the future you want. If you want to be a high-performing leader, start acting like one today. If you want to grow a powerful business, take actions that support that outcome today, not when it's easy, not when everything's figured out. Now, there will always be resistance, there will always be distractions, there will always be noise, but intentional action cuts through all of that. It keeps you grounded in your why. It reminds you that you're not here to play small. You're here to build something that matters, and that doesn't happen by accident. That happens through clarity, through consistency, through aligned movement every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Thoughts are where the dream begins, but power comes when you act like it's real, when you put systems around your vision, when you set boundaries that protect your focus, when you say no to things that don't serve your future. That's not extreme, that's leadership. That's what it takes to turn an idea into influence, a thought into transformation. You don't need to do 100 things today, you need to do the right thing. The one thing that brings you closer to who you're becoming, that's what intentional action is. it's movement with purpose, it's alignment in motion. So the next time you get a powerful thought, the kind that stops you in your tracks and makes your heart beat faster, don't just write it down. Don't just talk about it. Move, act, build. That's how power is created. One step at a time, not from hype, but from discipline, not from wishing, but from working. Intentional action transforms thought into power, because power isn't something you're given. It's something you earn through consistent, focused, relentless action toward the future you were born to build. You weren't born to blend in. You weren't made to simply survive the day, go through the motions, or check the boxes society told you to complete. You were built for impact. You were created to shift something, your community, your industry, your family, your future. There is something inside you that was designed to make things better, stronger, more purposeful. And yet, too many people settle for existence. They stay quiet when they're meant to speak. They stay small when they're meant to lead. They convince themselves that playing it safe is being responsible, when in reality, it's just fear in disguise. Existing is easy. Existing is what happens when you stop trying, when you let routine become your identity, when you settle for what's comfortable instead of pursuing what's possible. But impact, that's a different level of living. Impact demands more from you. It requires clarity, courage, and consistency. It's not about being famous. It's not about having the loudest voice in the room. It's about influence, the kind that moves people, challenges norms, and creates a ripple effect that goes far beyond what you can measure. You were built for that, not by accident, not by coincidence. There are gifts inside you, ideas, solutions, insights that someone else needs. There are people waiting on the other side of your decision to lead. But you can't make an impact if you keep second guessing yourself. You can't change lives if you keep hiding. You weren't built to just show up. You were built to wake people up, to spark something, to create progress. That's the difference between existence and impact. Existence is passive, but impact is intentional. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable at times. You will have moments when you doubt your voice, your value, your direction. But don't mistake doubt for a stop sign. Impact doesn't come from perfection. It comes from showing up in spite of the uncertainty. It comes from deciding that making a difference is more important than being liked. That contributing is more important than conforming. The people who create real change aren't the ones who wait until they're ready. They're the ones who move forward while they're still becoming. You were built with intention. There's no one else wired exactly like you. Your story, your struggles, your perspective, it all matters. It's all part of what gives you your edge. Impact doesn't require you to be flawless. It requires you to be available. To be bold enough to share what you know, even if you're still learning, to be real enough to let people see your process, not just your highlight reel, because people don't connect with perfection, they connect with authenticity. And when you show up authentically with the intent to serve, that's where transformation begins. So many people spend their lives waiting for a sign that it's time, but you don't need a sign, you need a decision. A moment where you say, I'm not going to live on autopilot anymore. I'm not going to silence my potential just to fit into someone else's expectations, because you were never meant to be average. You were never meant to just get by. That's not living. That's enduring, and you're not here to endure. You're here to lead, to disrupt, to build something that outlasts you. There is power in your presence when you choose to use it, power in your words when you choose to speak them. Power in your leadership when you choose to own it, but you can't access that power if you keep shrinking yourself down to stay comfortable. Comfort will rob you of your calling. It will convince you to keep your impact quiet. But the world doesn't need quieter leaders. It needs bold ones, honest ones, leaders who care more about legacy than applause, leaders who are more committed to growth than image. You don't need to be famous to make an impact. You don't need 1 million followers or a title next to your name. You need to be intentional. You need to get clear on what you're here to do, and then get relentless about doing it. Impact isn't about being everywhere. It's about being aligned, showing up where you're called, doing what you're best at, and refusing to settle for a life that doesn't challenge you to grow. Existing asks nothing of you. It requires no vision, no passion, no courage. But you weren't made for that kind of life. You were built for something greater. You were built to lead with purpose, to work with intention, to speak with conviction. And if you keep waiting until it feels easy, you'll miss the opportunity to become who you were born to be. So don't just exist. Don't just float through your days hoping they add up to something. Wake up, show up, make noise, be seen, lead well. You weren't built for silence. You were built for significance. You were built for impact. Ruling doesn't begin with a title. It doesn't come from authority handed to you. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room or the one with the final say. Ruling begins the moment you take ownership, true, full, unapologetic ownership of your life, your choices, your results, and your future. That's where leadership is born, not in the applause, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet, private decisions you make every single day to stop blaming, stop deflecting, and start owning everything in your control. Ownership is the foundation of leadership. It's where influence is created. Because people don't follow titles, they follow consistency, they follow clarity, they follow people who don't run from responsibility, but run toward it. When you own your time, your mindset, your habits, and your outcomes, you step into a different category. You're no longer waiting to be rescued. You're not asking someone else to fix it. You're saying, "This is mine, this is on me, I will handle this." That's power. That's how leaders are built. Most people want the results of ruling, but they don't want the responsibility that comes with it. They want the recognition without the resilience. They want the win without the weight, but that's not how it works. Leadership is heavy. Ownership is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront where you've been passive. It demands that you acknowledge your role in your circumstances, not from a place of shame, but from a place of power. Because when you finally admit, "This is where I am because of the choices I've made," you also unlock the ability to say, "This is where I'm going, and I get to choose that too." You cannot lead what you don't own. You can't fix what you won't face. That's why ownership isn't optional if you want to rule. If your business isn't growing, own it. If your mindset is slipping, own it. If your energy is low, your schedule is chaotic, your relationships feel disconnected, own it. No excuses, no blame, no pointing fingers, just ownership, because the moment you claim it, you can change it. And the moment you change it, you rise. Ownership is how you build trust with yourself and with others. When you keep commitments to yourself, you prove that you can be counted on. When you show up regardless of how you feel, when you execute without needing external motivation, you train your mind to operate at a higher standard. That's where confidence comes from, not from hype, but from evidence. Confidence is built in the follow-through, and the follow-through is born from ownership. If you want to rule anything, your career, your team, your future, you start by ruling yourself. That means managing your thoughts, owning your calendar, being intentional with your words, being disciplined with your habits. It means you stop waiting to feel ready and start moving because you're committed. Leadership isn't about what you know. It's about what you do with what you know. It's about execution, and execution always starts with ownership. Ownership doesn't mean you never make mistakes. It means you own them when you do. You take responsibility for the fallout. You learn. You adjust, you keep going. Leaders don't chase perfection, they chase progress. They don't pretend to have it all figured out. They lead through transparency, accountability, and growth. You earn respect not by being flawless, but by being accountable. That's what people follow. That's what builds movements. The truth is, ruling is not a role for the passive. You cannot rule and play victim to your circumstances at the same time. One will always cancel the other out. So you have to choose. Are you going to keep giving your power away to distractions, to excuses, to other people's opinions? Or are you going to take it back because no one's coming to hand you leadership? You take it, you build it, you prove it, you live it. And this isn't just about external leadership. This is about how you lead your own life, how you wake up, how you spend your day, how you respond to challenge, how you treat others, how you handle pressure. That's where ruling really starts, in the details, in the discipline, in the decisions no one else sees. It's not a switch you flip one day. It's a mindset you build moment by moment. You don't become a leader by chance, you become a leader by choice. You choose ownership, you choose accountability, you choose to stop reacting and start leading. That choice, it's where ruling begins. Because once you take full responsibility for your life, your impact, your direction, no one can take that from you. That's real power, that's ruling from the inside out, and it starts the moment you decide, I own this. All of it, and I'm building something worth leading.